I won millions in the lottery but kept it a secret. To test my family, I asked for help, expecting someone to step up. Only one person did, and it left me questioning everything I thought I knew about loyalty. Haley, I need to borrow $3,000 by Friday or I'm going to lose everything. Tyler's voice crackled through my phone at 5:30 a.m., jarring me from the thin sleep I'd managed after working until midnight on a presentation Sandra would claim as her own. I stared at the water stain on my studio apartment ceiling, the one shaped like a question mark that had been growing for 6 months, and wondered when I'd become the family's personal bailout fund. Tyler, it's Tuesday. Where am I supposed to get $3,000? Come on, you always figure something out. Remember when you helped Madison with her wedding? This is actually important. The irony wasn't lost on me. Madison's destination wedding in Cabo, where I'd sat at the singles table nursing one drink all night because the bar prices were astronomical, had cost me $1,500 I still hadn't seen returned. But Tyler's emergency, which would turn out to be poker debts, though he'd swear it was for a business opportunity, that was actually important. I hung up without answering and rolled out of bed onto the cold floor. The heating in my building worked sporadically, and March in Chicago meant waking up able to see your breath indoors. My phone immediately lit up with texts. 2 from Tyler with increasingly desperate punctuation. 1 from Madison complaining that her interior decorator had ordered the wrong shade of marble for her kitchen backsplash. The contrast made my empty stomach turn. The fridge hummed its death rattle as I opened it, surveying my carefully rationed groceries. Generic peanut butter, bread from the day-old rack, bruised apples I'd bought at discount, and a half-gallon of milk that needed to be used today. I skipped breakfast, coffee would have to suffice, and opened my laptop to check the 3 job boards I monitored religiously. Marketing coordinator positions that paid maybe $5,000 more than my current salary, but would mean the same thankless hours and stolen credit. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time. Don't forget dinner Sunday at the house. Richard is grilling Wagyu steaks he got from his business partner. Wagyu steaks. I looked at my peanut butter and closed the fridge. Sunday's dinner would become the moment something finally snapped inside me, though I didn't know it yet as I dressed in my one professional outfit that didn't have visible wear. The pants were hemmed with tape, the blazer missing its middle button, but from a distance I looked put together. The same illusion I'd been maintaining for years. The monthly family dinner was held at Mom and Richard's house, a sprawling colonial in the suburbs that Richard never let anyone forget he'd paid cash for. I arrived in my Honda Civic that needed new brakes, parking next to Madison's white Mercedes and Tyler's somehow new pickup truck. Haley's here, Madison announced as I walked in, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when acknowledging unfortunate necessities. She looked me up and down, her nose wrinkling slightly. Interesting dress. Very vintage. Is that from the thrift store on Maple? It was. I'd bought it for $4, thinking the floral pattern was cheerful. Madison stood there in shoes that cost more than my rent, her hand resting on her hip to better display the tennis bracelet Derek had given her for their anniversary. At least she made an effort, Tyler chimed in from the couch, already 3 beers deep. Better than showing up in pajamas like last time. Those weren't pajamas. They were yoga pants. Same difference when you drive that disaster of a car. Thing sounds like it's dying every time you start it. Richard looked up from his phone. Speaking of practical matters, Haley, I've been thinking. Marketing isn't exactly a growth field. You should have studied accounting or finance. Something with real earning potential. I bit my tongue, remembering the $15,000 I'd loaned to various family members over the past 5 years. Tyler's rehab that never happened. Madison's wedding expenses. Mom's emergency dental work that somehow became a cruise to Alaska. Dad's investment opportunity that disappeared into nothing. Each time with promises of repayment that evaporated like morning dew. The dinner conversation revolved around Madison's kitchen renovation, Richard's latest investment victory, and Tyler's mysterious new business venture he couldn't quite explain. No one asked about my life. No one mentioned that tomorrow was my birthday. The next day at work confirmed what I'd suspected for months. I was invisible. Sandra presented my campaign strategy to the board, the one I'd spent 60 hours perfecting, and received a standing ovation. When I quietly mentioned to her afterward that it was my birthday, she blinked and said, "Oh, that's nice. Can you have the Johnson report ready by end of day?" My family group chat buzzed all day with photos of Madison's marble samples and arguments about which shade of white was superior. At 9 p.m. Mom finally remembered. A balloon emoji. Nothing else. That's when I hit my breaking point. 32 years old, eating ramen for dinner in an apartment where the radiator clanged like a ghost in chains, while my family debated marble patterns. I grabbed my keys and headed to Murphy's corner store. Haley. Mr. Murphy's face lit up when I walked in. Happy birthday, sweetheart. 32, right? I remember because you share it with my granddaughter. This 70-year-old man who sold me milk and lottery tickets remembered my birthday when my own mother barely managed an emoji. The usual quick pick? He asked, reaching for the lottery machine. No. The word came out sharper than intended. I want to choose my own numbers today. I selected them with deliberate precision. 3 and 15, the dates Tyler had promised to pay me back. 29, Madison's wedding date. 7, when Dad forgot my college graduation. 12, Mom's birthday, the one day she never forgot. 21, the age I realized I was nothing more than the family ATM. Feeling lucky? Mr. Murphy asked, handing me the ticket. Just feeling done, I replied. He gave me a free coffee for my birthday, the only gift I'd received that day. I sat in my car in the parking lot holding that $2 ticket, not knowing I'd just purchased my freedom. Not knowing those numbers, chosen from a map of disappointments and betrayals, would soon teach me the difference between relatives and family. The drive home was quiet except for the concerning grinding sound my brakes made at every stop sign. Tyler had texted 4 more times about his emergency. Madison sent a photo of herself at a wine bar with friends, complaining about the service. The family chat had moved on to planning their next vacation. I tucked the lottery ticket into my wallet behind my maxed-out credit card and went to bed, unaware that everything was about to change. 3 days passed in a blur of sleepless nights and mechanical routine. Thursday evening found me hunched over a bowl of instant ramen, the cheap kind that tastes like salt and regret, scrolling through my phone to avoid thinking about the stack of bills on my counter. The lottery drawing had been Tuesday night, but I'd forgotten to check. My ticket sat in my wallet, crumpled between expired coupons and a business card from a therapist I couldn't afford. Something made me pull it out. Maybe it was Tyler's latest text asking if I'd reconsidered the 3,000, or maybe it was the universe's twisted sense of timing. I smoothed the ticket on my wobbly kitchen table and pulled up the winning numbers on my phone. 3. My finger hovered over the screen. That was my first number. 15. My second number. 29. 7. 12. My breathing stopped. The room tilted. I blinked hard, certain I was misreading. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the linoleum floor. I scrambled to pick it up, checking the numbers again on a different website. Then another. Then the official lottery page. All 6 numbers. Every single one. The jackpot amount blurred through sudden tears. $12 million. I ran to the bathroom and vomited, my body rejecting the impossibility of what I'd just discovered. When I could stand again, I checked the numbers 14 more times, using different devices, different browsers, even calling the lottery's automated line twice just to hear the robotic voice confirm what my eyes kept seeing. The ticket trembled in my hand like a living thing. This piece of paper worth more than I'd earn in 300 years at my current salary. I held it up to the light, paranoid it might be counterfeit, though I'd watched Mr. Murphy print it myself. Then the fear hit. Not excitement, not joy, pure, crystalline terror. What if Mom found out? She'd suddenly remember she loved me. Tyler would become the devoted brother he'd never been. Madison would want to be best friends, planning shopping trips and spa days on my dime. The family that had forgotten my birthday would suddenly remember every holiday, every occasion to visit. I spent that night researching lottery winners, and what I found made me sick all over again. The woman whose son hired someone to murder her for the inheritance. The man whose family sued him into bankruptcy. The countless stories of winners surrounded by vultures wearing familiar faces, picked clean until nothing remained but debt and bitter memories. By morning I'd made my decision. No one could know. My first call was to a law firm downtown, the kind with names that sounded like expensive whiskey. James Whitmore agreed to see me that afternoon. I called in sick to work. Sandra could steal someone else's ideas for one day, and put on my interview suit, the one held together with safety pins and prayer. The elevator to James's office rose through floors I'd never had reason to visit. When the doors opened on the 20th floor, I stepped into a world of leather chairs and original artwork, where the air itself smelled expensive. The receptionist looked at my worn shoes but smiled politely. James Whitmore wasn't what I'd expected. Silver-haired but approachable, he stood when I entered and shook my hand firmly, gesturing to chairs that probably cost more than my car. "Ms. Morrison, how can I help you today?" I placed the ticket on his desk without a word. He studied it, then me, then nodded slowly. "I see. First, congratulations. Second, you're smart to come here before claiming it." For 3 hours, James became my professor in protecting wealth I didn't yet have. We established New Beginnings LLC, a blind trust that would claim the ticket anonymously. He explained tax implications, investment strategies, the importance of saying no. His assistant brought coffee in china cups while we discussed how to become wealthy without anyone knowing. "I've seen what happens when winners go public," James said, sliding a folder across his desk. 70% are bankrupt within 5 years. Family members they haven't spoken to in decades suddenly appear. Friends become business partners with guaranteed failures. Everyone has a sick relative, a struggling child, a can't-miss investment opportunity. "My family already treats me like an A-team," I said quietly. "Then they've shown you who they are. The money won't change them, it'll just amplify what's already there." He leaned forward. "You can help them if you choose, but on your terms, anonymously if necessary. The moment they know you have money, your relationship changes forever." We structured everything carefully. The trust would claim the winnings, pay the taxes, invest conservatively. I'd have access to funds through corporate credit cards and business accounts. Nothing directly traceable to Haley Morrison, struggling marketing coordinator. Monday morning arrived too quickly. I sat in my cubicle, $7 million richer after taxes, eating a peanut butter sandwich while my coworkers complained about gas prices. $4.50 a gallon is insane, Janet from accounting moaned. "I might have to start taking the bus." "Tell me about it," I agreed, knowing I could buy a fleet of Teslas without blinking. Sandra swept by and grabbed my latest campaign proposal off my desk. "I'll present this in the board meeting." "Good work, Haley." She'd add her name to it first, of course. I smiled and thanked her, mentally calculating that my investment interest would earn more in a day than she made in a month. The performance was exhausting. When Derek from IT asked if I wanted to split a pizza for lunch because payday was still 3 days away, I agreed, picking at my slice while millions sat in my account. Twice that week I had to run to the bathroom, physically sick from the weight of the secret. Tyler called Wednesday night. "Hey, so I found this perfect outfit for my interview, but it's $500. It's an investment in my future, you know." "What interview?" I asked, though I already knew he was lying. "The one I told you about. The startup. It's gonna be huge." 2 hours later, his Instagram showed him at a concert downtown, wearing ripped jeans and a tank top. The interview outfit apparently included VIP tickets and bottle service. Madison texted the next day. "The renovation is costing more than we budgeted. I don't suppose you could help? Even $1,000 would make a difference." I stared at her message, then at my bank app showing the trust's balance. I could solve all her problems with what accumulated in interest during this conversation. Instead, I replied that money was tight. "Must be nice to have a safety net," she responded, the irony so thick I could taste it. Mom called Friday, chattering about their upcoming cruise to the Mediterranean. "Richard got an amazing deal, only $8,000 per person. You should really try to save for things like this, Haley. Experiences are more valuable than things." I agreed, looking at my shoes held together with superglue, listening to her describe luxury I could now afford but wouldn't dare display. Each conversation strengthened something inside me, a resolve hardening like concrete. They'd shown me their true colors when they thought I had nothing. Now I had everything and they'd never know. The weekend stretched before me like an empty stage waiting for its performance. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, plotting deception with the thoroughness I'd once reserved for marketing campaigns. If I was going to test my family, the story had to be flawless. I researched actual company closures from the past year, studying their patterns. Technova Solutions. Embezzlement scandal, executives fled to Brazil. Meridian Marketing Group. Sudden bankruptcy, employees locked out without warning. I borrowed details from each, weaving them into something believable. My fictional disaster needed to sound real enough for the evening news. The story took shape over countless drafts. My company discovered embezzlement at the executive level during a routine audit. FBI involvement meant frozen assets, no final paychecks, no severance. The office was locked when we arrived Monday morning, security guards turning us away with our belongings in boxes. Specific enough to be credible, vague enough to avoid fact-checking. I practiced in front of my bathroom mirror, the harsh fluorescent light exposing every detail of my performance. The catch in my voice when mentioning the locked office. The pause before admitting I needed help. I watched myself cry on command, thinking about years of being overlooked until genuine tears came. By Tuesday I could deliver devastation in under 3 minutes. My journal became a director's notebook. Each family member got their own page. Their financial situation, their typical responses, their weak spots. Mom watched her afternoon shows from 2 to 4. Dad preferred public meetings where emotional displays were limited. Madison responded better to video calls where she could see distress. Tyler rarely answered before noon. Wednesday afternoon I made the first call. Mom picked up on the 4th ring, Real Housewives, playing loudly in the background. Haley, make it quick, they're about to confront Teresa. Mom, something terrible happened. My company. Can you hold on? Commercial break in 2 minutes. I waited, listening to manufactured drama about wine throwing and yacht parties. When she finally muted the TV, I delivered my practice story. Her initial gasp sounded promising. Oh honey, that's awful. Have you filed for unemployment? Yes, but it'll take weeks to process and my rent's due Monday. I need help, Mom. About $3,000 to cover. $3,000. Her voice sharpened. Haley, that's a lot of money. Have you considered food banks? Churches sometimes help with rent. Richard knows someone at Catholic Charities. Food banks. My mother, who'd spent $4,000 on a handbag last month, was directing me to charity. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. Well, maybe try your father? Or Madison. Derek's doing well at the firm. She hung up after promising to think about it, which we both knew meant no. Thursday morning, Dad suggested meeting at a coffee shop near his school. He arrived carrying a stack of papers, printed job listings he'd found online. Before we discuss your situation, he began, not bothering with hello, I want you to see these opportunities. 10 marketing positions, all entry-level, but beggars can't be choosers. Entry-level. After 8 years in the field. Dad, I'm actively looking, but right now I need immediate help. $3,000 would cover. Let's discuss your spending habits first. He pulled out another paper. A budget template. Your apartment costs too much. Have you considered a roommate? Or moving to a less desirable neighborhood? When I was your age, I lived with 3 other people. For 45 minutes he lectured about financial responsibility, the gig economy, and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Not once did he offer actual assistance. When I finally broke down crying, real tears of frustration this time, he patted my shoulder awkwardly. This is a learning opportunity, Haley. Sometimes we need to hit bottom to bounce back. Madison's FaceTime call was scheduled for her lunch break. She answered from her Tesla AirPods gleaming white against her perfect blonde highlights. Oh my God, Haley, Mom told me. This is insane. For a moment hope flickered. Then I saw her expression shift as I mentioned money. $3,000? Wow, that's a lot. Derek and I are actually really strapped with the renovation. Did you see the marble samples I posted? The Calacatta Gold was 40% over budget. 40% over budget for marble while I was supposedly facing eviction. Maybe you could stay with Mom and Richard? Just temporarily? Or there's this app where you can rent out your apartment daily. Madison, I need help, not business advice. She suddenly remembered a client meeting and promised to call back. He didn't. Tyler was the one that broke something inside me. 6 calls straight to voicemail. I texted, begged him to call back. Nothing. Then Emma, his girlfriend, sent a message that made my hands shake with rage. Hey, Tyler told me not to respond, but I felt you should know. He said you're being dramatic for attention and he's tired of your victim complex. I'm sorry. Victim complex. The person I'd kept from homelessness 4 separate times thought I had a victim complex. His Instagram that night showed a $200 dinner at a steakhouse downtown. New sneakers that cost more than my rent. A watch I'd never seen before. Each post felt like a deliberate slap. Friday brought the family group chat explosion. Cousin Ryan, who owed me $600 from 2 Christmases ago, started it. Heard about Haley's job situation. Tough break. Uncle Marcus chimed in immediately. This is why networking is crucial. You can't just rely on one income source. Nicole added, has anyone looked at her spending? Sometimes we don't realize where money goes. Then Madison, typing fast enough that she forgot to delete first. Maybe this will teach her to be more ambitious. I screenshotted it before it disappeared. 2 seconds of truth before the performance resumed. So sorry, Haley. Typo. Meant to say this will teach them for letting you go. The chat devolved into advice I hadn't asked for, job sites I'd already visited, criticism wrapped in concern. Not a single offer of help. Mom finally wrote, let's all pray for Haley, which apparently absolved everyone of actual assistance. I documented everything in my journal. Each rejection, each excuse, each moment of revealing truth. Tyler's abandonment. Mom's redirection. Dad's condescension. Madison's marble priorities. The family that had taken $30,000 from me over the years couldn't spare $3,000 when I needed it. Saturday night, I sat surrounded by evidence of their failures, my phone silent for the first time all week. The test was working perfectly, showing me exactly what I'd feared to confirm. They weren't family. They were just people I shared DNA with. The phone rang at 8 o'clock that Saturday night, jarring me from the spreadsheet I'd created documenting each family member's rejection. Aunt Deborah's name lit up the screen, the only person I hadn't planned to test. Haley, sweetheart, I just heard from your mother about your job. Her voice carried a weight that made me sit up straighter. Are you okay? Not, I heard you lost your job, or, your mom said you're having money troubles. Just a simple question about whether I was okay. I'm managing, I said, the lie feeling different with her. No honey, are you eating enough? Do you have heat? The landlord isn't giving you trouble, is he? Each question hit specific fears rather than abstract concepts. Should I come over right now? It's not that late. Aunt Deborah, Actually, let's meet for breakfast tomorrow. Betty's Diner at 9? My treat, and I won't take no for an answer. Betty's Diner sat on the corner of Harmon and Fifth, a relic from the 70s with cracked vinyl booths and a coffee maker that probably violated several health codes. But their coffee cost $1.50 with endless refills, and they didn't judge you for sitting for hours. I arrived 10 minutes early, choosing a booth in the back. Deborah walked in carrying a reusable grocery bag, her winter coat missing buttons, her gray hair pulled back in a clip that had seen better days. She looked tired in a bone-deep way that makeup couldn't hide. There's my girl, she said, sliding into the booth and immediately pushing the bag toward me. I made soup last night and had extra. There's bread too, the kind you liked at Thanksgiving. Before I could respond, she pressed an envelope into my hands. Worn white, the kind banks don't use anymore, soft from being handled. Deborah, what? Open it later. Now tell me what happened. The real story, not whatever abbreviated version you gave your mother. I launched into my practice tale, but something in her eyes made me falter. She listened differently than the others, leaning forward, nodding at specifics rather than waiting for her turn to speak. When I mentioned the frozen assets, she asked about legal recourse. When I described the locked office, she wondered about personal belongings. Have you been able to eat? She asked when I finished. I mean really eat, not just whatever's cheapest. The envelope sat between us like a living thing. I opened it despite her gesture to wait. Inside were bills, 20s and 50s, some crisp, others soft with age. $2,000 arranged carefully like she'd counted it multiple times. Deborah, no. The words came out strangled. This is too much. It's what I have, she said simply. But you need this. Your medication, She waved her hand. I'm fine. I've been fine for 63 years, I'll manage a few more months. The waitress brought coffee and Deborah ordered us both the breakfast special without asking what I wanted. She needs protein, she told the waitress like I was someone worth worrying about. How did you even save this much? I asked, though part of me already knew. Deborah pulled out a small notebook from her purse, its pages yellowed and corners bent. She opened it to a page covered in careful handwriting. Budget items crossed out with different dates. New winter coat November with a line through it. Dental cleaning December crossed out too. Prescription refill with a question mark. I've been making adjustments, she said quietly. What do you mean adjustments? She stirred sugar into her coffee, taking her time. The diabetes medication is expensive even with insurance, so I cut the pills in half, make them last longer. I picked up weekend shifts at the crisis hotline. They pay $15 an hour and I'm just sitting and talking anyway. Deborah, you can't cut your medication in half. That's dangerous. More dangerous than you being evicted? She reached across the table and took my hand. Honey, I've been where you are. When Robert left, I had nothing. I know what it's like to choose between food and electricity. Robert, her ex-husband who'd left her for his secretary 15 years ago. The family story was that they'd grown apart, but looking at her now, I suspected there was more. I never told anyone the real reason Robert and I divorced, she continued. My grandmother left me $50,000. Not a fortune, but enough to finally feel secure. Robert saw it as his ticket to easy living. When I refused to invest in his friend's restaurant, he forged my signature and took it anyway. He stole from you? Every penny. The restaurant failed in 6 months. When I confronted him, he said it was our money and he had as much right to it as I did. He squeezed my hand. That's when I learned that money doesn't change people, honey. It just reveals who they already were. The weight of my secret pressed against my ribs. Here was Deborah, cutting her medication in half to help me, while $7 million sat in my account. Deborah, I have to tell you something. Her eyes were so kind it physically hurt. What is it, sweetheart? I didn't lose my job. The words tumbled out. I won the lottery. $12 million. I have the money, I've had it for weeks, and I've been testing everyone to see who would help when they thought I had nothing. She sat back slowly, releasing my hand. The breakfast arrived, but neither of us moved to eat. 12 million, she repeated softly. 7 after taxes. I set up a trust, claimed it anonymously. No one knows except my lawyer and now you. And you tested your family. Mom suggested food banks. Dad lectured me about responsibility. Madison complained about marble while I begged for help. Tyler. I couldn't finish. Tyler showed you who he is, Deborah said gently. They all did. Aren't you angry? I lied to you. You gave me everything you had saved while I have millions. He picked up her coffee, considering. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking about your mother calling me last week to talk about their cruise plans while you supposedly faced eviction. I'm thinking about Madison's Instagram posts of her renovation while her sister begged for help. I'm thinking about every time you emptied your savings for them. But I deceived you too. No, honey. You gave them the same test, but I'm the only one who passed. That tells you everything. She pushed the envelope back toward me when I tried to return it. Keep it. Deborah. That money represents a choice I made. Whether you have $7 or $7 million doesn't change that choice. I helped because you're family and you needed help. That's what family does. The tears came then, real ones. You're the only one who cared. Then you know who your real family is, she said, finally taking a bite of her eggs. The question now is what you do with that knowledge. We sat in that diner for 3 hours, her hand occasionally reaching over to pat mine, both of us understanding that something fundamental had shifted. The test was over. The results were clear. Leaving Betty's diner, Deborah hugged me in the parking lot, her thin arms stronger than they looked. Whatever you decide to do with the truth, I'm here, she said. I drove home with her $2,000 on the passenger seat, unable to bring myself to deposit it, unable to return it. Sunday would be the reckoning. I'd already sent the group text, family meeting at my apartment 2 p.m. Sunday. Important announcement about my situation. The responses ranged from Madison's eye roll emoji to Tyler's K, to Mom's lengthy message about how busy they were but they'd try to make it. My studio apartment transformed into something between a courtroom and a command center. I taped papers to the wall behind my sofa. A timeline of every loan, every broken promise, every excuse. Madison borrowed $1,500 for her wedding, promised to pay back after the honeymoon. That was 3 years ago. Tyler's emergencies totaled $8,000 over 5 years. Mom and Dad's various needs added another $4,000. $23,000 given, 0 returned. I wrote my speech 17 times, each version angrier than the last. The final draft was calm, factual, devastating. I practiced in the bathroom mirror, controlling my expression as I laid out their betrayals. When Tyler needed rent money in January, I gave him $800. Steady voice. When I asked for help this week, he wouldn't return my calls. No emotion. Let the facts speak. Tuesday morning, I opened Instagram to find Madison posting about her kitchen renovation. Sometimes you have to invest in your dreams. #blessed, #renovation, #dream kitchen. The marble backsplash she'd chosen cost more than my supposed emergency fund. I screenshotted everything. Richard's LinkedIn was worse. Proud to announce our third investment property acquisition. Building generational wealth requires sacrifice and vision. Posted the same day Mom suggested I try food banks. Tyler's Venmo was public because of course it was. Concert tickets, restaurant bills, something called Vegas weekend deposit. All while I supposedly faced eviction. I documented each transaction, building my case with prosecutorial precision. Wednesday night I researched deeper. Dad's surgery was scheduled for next month. A routine procedure, but the deductible would be $5,000. Tyler owed more than I'd suspected. His friend Jake had mentioned Tyler borrowed money from some unsavory people. Mom's credit cards were nearly maxed from their vacations. They all needed help they'd never ask for, too proud to beg from the daughter they'd dismissed. My phone rang Thursday evening. Charlotte's face filled the screen, her red hair pulled back, paint splattered on her cheek from her latest art project. "Okay, something's wrong," she said without preamble. "You look like you're planning a murder." "Just family stuff," I deflected, but my voice cracked. "Haley, we've been friends for 12 years. I know your family stuff, face, and this isn't it. This is something else." I almost told her. The words pressed against my teeth, begging for release. Charlotte would understand. She'd cut off her own toxic mother years ago. "Family can be the loneliest place sometimes," she said when I stayed silent. "Whatever they did, whatever you're planning, just remember you're worth more than their approval." "When did you get so wise?" "Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy." She smiled. "I'm booking a flight. 2 weeks. We're having wine and you're telling me everything." After we hung up, I sat in the dark apartment feeling less alone. Charlotte and Deborah. My chosen family, worth more than blood could ever be. Friday was when I started building my future. During lunch, I walked to the county clerk's office and filed paperwork for Second Chances Foundation, a nonprofit for single mothers facing financial crisis. The irony wasn't lost on me, helping women who, like me, had been abandoned when they needed support most. The mission statement wrote itself. Providing emergency assistance and sustainable support for single mothers rebuilding their lives. I appointed myself executive director with a salary of $60,000. Modest enough to be believable, enough to explain my upcoming lifestyle change. I spent Saturday afternoon viewing apartments. Not luxury condos, nothing that would raise questions. Just nice, safe places with working heat and windows that sealed properly. The third one felt right. A 1-bedroom with actual sunlight, a kitchen where the appliances matched, neighbors who nodded hello. I signed the lease through my LC, move-in date 3 weeks away. Each step felt like laying track for my escape. Bank accounts for the foundation, a website that looked professional but not expensive, business cards with my new title. Executive Director Haley Morrison. It had a ring to it. Tyler texted Saturday night, the first contact since my plea for help. "Heard you are having some family meeting. This better not be some intervention BS." I stared at his message, remembering when we were kids. He'd walked me to school every day until high school, telling me stupid jokes to make me laugh. When did that boy become this stranger who couldn't even call when I needed help? Mom called Sunday morning. "This meeting better be good news. Richard's canceling golf." "It's important," I said. "Well, I hope you've sorted yourself out. This whole situation has been very stressful for everyone." For everyone. My supposed near homelessness was stressful for everyone else. I cleaned my apartment obsessively, wanting them to see what they'd dismissed. The second-hand furniture I'd made beautiful with slipcovers and throws. The walls I'd decorated with thrift store art. The life I'd built with no help from them. At noon I stood in front of my mirror one last time. Black dress, simple but professional. Hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. I looked like someone delivering a verdict. The speech waited on my coffee table. The evidence was filed in folders. The truth about the lottery stayed locked in my chest, a secret they'd never earned the right to know. My phone showed 1:47 p.m. 13 minutes until they arrived. 13 minutes until everything changed. Deborah texted, "Remember, honey, you're not asking for their approval anymore. You're setting yourself free." I touched the lottery ticket, now laminated and hidden in my jewelry box. Those 6 numbers had given me money, but this meeting would give me something more valuable. My freedom from the weight of undeserved obligation. The intercom buzzed. They were early. Of course they were, probably hoping to catch me unprepared. I pressed the button to let them in, my heart steady for the first time in weeks. The storm was here and I was ready. The footsteps on the stairs came in waves. Mom and Richard first, their voices echoing complaints about the lack of elevator. Madison and Derek next, her heels clicking against the worn steps. Dad arrived alone, precisely at 2. Tyler would be late, of course. They entered my apartment like they were visiting a crime scene. Madison clutched her designer purse against her body, eyes scanning my second-hand furniture with barely concealed disgust. Richard immediately checked his watch, then his phone, making sure everyone knew he had somewhere better to be. Mom forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes, settling onto my couch like it might stain her pants. "Water," I offered. "Coffee." "Nothing from here," Madison muttered, then louder, "I mean no thank you." Derek stood behind her, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Dad took the worn armchair, pulling out his phone to review what looked like lesson plans. The silence stretched until it hurt. 20 minutes later, Tyler stumbled in. His eyes were bloodshot, clothes wrinkled, smelling like last night's mistakes. "Sorry, traffic," he mumbled, though we all knew he lived 10 minutes away. Only Deborah entered with warmth, carrying a tin of homemade cookies, hugging me like she meant it. "You look good, honey," she whispered, taking her place near the window. I stood before them, my prepared speech in my hand but not needed. The words had carved themselves into my memory through repetition and rage. "Thank you all for coming," I began. Richard sighed audibly. "I know you're concerned about my situation." "Very concerned," Mom interrupted. "This whole thing has been incredibly stressful for the family." "I'm sure it has been. That's why I wanted to share some good news. I've accepted a position as Executive Director of Second Chances Foundation." The transformation was instant. Mom's shoulders dropped in relief. Madison actually smiled. Richard put his phone away. "Thank God," Mom said out loud. "We've been so worried." "Have you?" I asked. "Because when I called you about needing help, you suggested food banks." Her face flushed. "Well, I didn't know what else to. And Dad, when we met for coffee, you spent 45 minutes explaining why my life choices led to this moment. Not one offer of help, just lectures about bootstraps and responsibility." "I was trying to teach you," Dad started. "Teach me what?" "I'm 32 years old. When Tyler needed $800 in January for rent, I didn't lecture him. I paid it." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "That was different." "How?" "Explain how it was different." "I was going through stuff. And I wasn't. When I called you begging for help, you told Emma I was being dramatic. Seeking attention. Emma wasn't here, but her betrayal of his confidence hung in the air." Tyler's face went pale. "How did you?" "Madison," I continued, turning to my sister, "you suggested I move in with Mom while complaining about marble that cost 40% over budget." "The marble, Madison. While your sister faced eviction." "Derek handles our finances," she said weakly. "Derek handles them? You have no say? No access to your own money?" Derek looked at his wife with surprise. "You said you didn't want to help her." The first crack in their united front. "And Richard?" I looked directly at my stepfather. "Your exact words were, 'You're not my daughter. Your financial problems are your own.' Is that accurate?" Mom turned to him. "You said that." "I meant, Patricia, she's an adult." "Interesting, because when your nephew needed bail money last year, you didn't tell him he wasn't your son." The room erupted. Mom demanded explanations from Richard. Madison and Derek started arguing in whispers. Dad insisted his approach was pedagogical. Tyler just stared at the floor. "Enough," I said quietly, but they kept arguing. "Enough." Silence fell like a hammer. "Let me be clear about something. In the past 5 years, I have given this family $23,000. Tyler, $8,000 for various emergencies. Madison, $1,500 for your wedding plus another $1,000 for your emergency last year. Mom, Dad, 4,000 between you for dental work, roof repairs, and that investment opportunity. You're keeping track? Mom sounded offended. Shouldn't I? Did any of you keep track when I needed $3,000? Did anyone even consider helping? Money isn't everything, Dad said pompously. No, but it reveals everything. It shows who people really are when helping costs something. This is unfair, Madison protested. You're attacking us because we couldn't help one time. One time? Name one time any of you helped me. A single time. The silence stretched. Madison opened her mouth, closed it. Tyler rubbed his eyes. Mom looked at Richard, who studied his hands. My car broke down 2 years ago, I continued. I took the bus for 3 months. Tyler, you drove past my bus stop every day on your way to work. Never once offered a ride. I didn't know. I told you. You said getting up earlier would mess with your schedule. When I had the flu last winter, I looked at Madison. You sent me a text saying feel better, and then posted photos from your spa day. Self-care is important. When I graduated from college, I turned to Dad. You didn't come because it conflicted with your faculty meeting. That was mandatory. Mom, when I spent my 25th birthday alone, you forgot entirely. You called 3 days later to ask if I could lend you money for your cruise. Each accusation landed like a physical blow. They shrank into themselves, excuses dying in their throats. But Deborah, I said, my voice softening. Deborah heard I was in trouble and called immediately. Asked if I was eating, if I had heat. Met me with homemade soup and gave me $2,000 she couldn't afford to give. All eyes turned to Deborah, who sat quietly with tears on her cheeks. She cut her diabetes medication in half to save money to help me. While you all worried about marble and cruises and investment properties, she gave me everything she had. We didn't know it was that serious, Mom whispered. You didn't want to know. Because knowing would have required doing something. Tyler stood abruptly. I can't, I need air. Sit down, I said, and something in my voice made him obey. We're not done. What more do you want? Richard demanded. You've made your point. We're terrible people. Happy. No, Richard. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy with this family for years. But I'm finally free. Free. Mom echoed. From the obligation of pretending we're something we're not. From the weight of being the only one who gives. From the lie that DNA means love. Deborah stood, then moved to my side. Haley's been carrying all of you for years. And when she needed carrying, you let her fall. Thank you for saying that, I told Deborah, squeezing her hand. The family sat frozen, my words and hers still echoing in the small apartment. After another moment of suffocating silence, they filed out one by one. Mom wiping tears, Madison clutching Derek's arm, Tyler mumbling something about needing time to think. Only Dad attempted final words. I hope you find peace with this decision, Haley. I already had. 6 months dissolved like sugar in rain. October arrived with Madison's 30th birthday, and the invitation came despite everything. Or perhaps because of it. The restaurant she'd chosen required reservations months in advance. The kind of place where water came in wine glasses and bread cost extra. I pulled into the valet parking in my new Honda CR-V. Nothing flashy, just reliable with working heat and brakes that didn't scream. The valet didn't sneer, and that small dignity felt enormous. Haley. Madison's voice pitched high with surprise as I walked in. You look different. The dress was from an actual store, not thrift. It fit properly, the deep blue fabric falling exactly where it should. My hair was professionally cut, subtle highlights catching the restaurant's ambient lighting. I'd even bought new shoes, comfortable ones that didn't gap at the sides. Happy birthday, Madison. I handed her a gift bag with a modest but thoughtful present. A coffee table book about interior design she'd mentioned wanting. The family gathered around the table, their eyes dissecting my transformation. Mom leaned close to smell if I'd gotten expensive perfume. Richard studied my watch, just a simple citizen but new. Tyler kept staring at my hands, noticing the manicure. So the nonprofit is going well? Dad probed over appetizers. Very well. We're helping a lot of people. The pay must be better than we thought, Mom ventured. That's a new car outside? It's used but new to me. The foundation provides a vehicle allowance. They exchanged glances, calculating, trying to solve the equation of my apparent stability. Madison finally asked directly, "Did you get some kind of inheritance? A settlement?" "Just my salary and better financial planning." The dinner conversation inevitably turned to their struggles. Dad's surgery was coming up and he stressed about the deductible. Mom mentioned their credit card interest rates. Tyler stayed quiet, but I knew from mutual friends he'd been borrowing from dangerous people. 2 weeks later, Dad called me panicking. The hospital had informed him an anonymous benefactor had paid his surgical deductible in full through their charity program. "Can you believe it?" His voice cracked with relief. $5,000 just like that. They said someone donated specifically for patients with my condition. "That's wonderful, Dad. You deserve good things." I'd submitted the payment through my LLC the day after Madison's birthday, using the hospital's anonymous donation system. The satisfaction tasted better than any meal at that overpriced restaurant. Tyler's intervention came in November. He'd been beaten badly enough to need stitches, a warning from the people he owed. When he finally agreed to rehab, miraculously, a community grant covered the entire 30-day program. Mom called it divine intervention. Tyler sobbed with relief at Thanksgiving, 30 days clean, still wondering who'd saved him. It was me. It was always me. But they'd never know. Mom's crisis peaked in December. Richard discovered she'd hidden $12,000 in credit card debt, and their heated argument echoed through a pocket dial voicemail she didn't know she'd left me. The next day, her credit card company called about a mysterious payment that cleared her entire balance. She told the family story at Christmas dinner, tears streaming, praising God for the miracle. I sat at that same dinner table eating dry turkey and lumpy gravy, listening to them marvel at their good fortune without ever connecting it to me. Thursday dinners with Deborah became my sanctuary. Her new house, a tidy 2-bedroom bungalow with a real garden, glowed with warmth. I'd arranged its purchase through a special housing program for senior social workers that I'd invented and funded. She believed she'd won a legitimate grant and I let her. "Your roses are beautiful," I said one evening, helping her prune the bushes I'd secretly paid to have planted. "Everything's beautiful now," she replied, checking her blood sugar with the monitor I'd ensured was covered by an assistance program. Her levels were perfect, the medication working properly now that she could afford the full dose. We'd work in comfortable silence, dirt under our fingernails, occasionally sharing observations about the garden or life. She never asked about my money, though she knew the truth. She never requested anything beyond my company. When I brought groceries, she cooked. When she cooked, I cleaned. We were family in the way that mattered. The Second Chances Foundation consumed my weekdays with purpose. 43 single mothers had received emergency assistance in 6 months. Not just money, though rent and utilities were covered, but resources, counseling, job training. Real help that acknowledged their dignity. Karen, my assistant, had been our third client. She'd fled an abusive relationship with 2 kids and nothing else. Now she ran our office with military precision, her children in good schools, her apartment safe and stable. "You saved my life," she told me one afternoon, organizing files for new applicants. "You saved your own life. We just helped with the logistics." "My ex called last week," she mentioned carefully. "Said he'd changed, wanted another chance." "What did you tell him?" "That I'd changed too. Into someone who knows what she's worth." Each woman we helped felt like retroactive justice for every time I'd been dismissed, overlooked, treated as less than. Their success stories healed wounds I didn't know still bled. January brought another family dinner. They still invited me, perhaps from habit or guilt, probably both. I attended selectively, maintaining just enough presence to monitor their situations. That night, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. "You seem so different, Haley. Happier. More. I don't know, powerful. I found my purpose, Mom." "I'm glad." She hesitated. "I know things were said at that meeting. Things we can't take back." "No, you can't." She flinched but continued. "Do you think we'll ever be close again?" I looked at this woman who'd suggested food banks while planning cruises, who'd received miraculous debt relief she'd never know came from me. "We're as close as we need to be, Mom." The beauty of revenge, I'd learned, wasn't in their suffering, it was in my thriving. Every anonymous gift I gave them highlighted their failure to give to me. Every success I achieved without their support proved I'd never needed their approval. Every Thursday with Deborah showed me what family really meant. They'd never know about the lottery. They'd never understand my transformation. They'd live forever wondering how I'd risen while believing I'd fallen, grateful for miracles they'd never connect to the daughter they'd abandoned. Mom's words hung between us in that January kitchen, her need for closeness meeting my need for distance. I left her there with her questions, driving home through streets that no longer felt like escape routes but simply roads to my actual life. March arrived with unusual warmth, and I found myself parked outside Murphy's Corner store on a Tuesday afternoon. 1 year exactly since those 6 numbers changed everything. The bell above the door chimed the same rusty note, and Mr. Murphy looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Haley, long time. How's that birthday luck treating you?" He remembered. This 71-year-old man who saw hundreds of customers daily remembered my birthday win from a year ago. "Can't complain, Mr. Murphy. How are the grandkids?" "Sarah just got into Northwestern. Full scholarship. Can you believe it?" His face glowed with pride that money couldn't buy. "That's incredible. She must get her brains from you." He laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "You buying your usual today?" "Just 1 ticket. Quick pick is fine." As he printed it, I grabbed 2 cups of his terrible coffee that somehow tasted perfect. We sat on the bench outside his store watching traffic pass, talking about everything and nothing. His grandson's baseball season. The new owners of the bakery next door. Whether this early spring would last. This conversation, free of agendas, assumptions, or hidden resentments, felt more like family than any blood gathering ever had. When I left, I tucked the losing ticket into my wallet. Later, I'd frame it next to the winner, a reminder that luck wasn't about what you won but about recognizing what mattered. Mom's 60th birthday arrived in April with all the fanfare she'd always craved. Madison organized it at a country club, the kind with valet parking and a dress code. I arrived to find the family already deep in conversation about their various struggles. "The renovation loans are killing us," Madison confided to Aunt Jennifer, Mom's cousin I barely knew. "Derek's talking about selling the house." Tyler, 4 months sober thanks to my anonymous intervention, still drifted through life without direction. "I'm thinking about going back to school," he told Dad, who nodded absently while checking stocks on his phone. Mom held court at the head table, beautiful in a dress I knew she couldn't afford, talking about retirement dreams while Richard's jaw tightened with each word. They were drowning in their choices while I floated on millions they'd never know about. "Haley's here," Mom announced, and heads turned with that familiar assessment. What was I wearing? Did I bring an appropriate gift? How had I recovered from my crisis? "You look wonderful," Aunt Jennifer said, though we'd spoken maybe 10 words in my lifetime. "Patricia says you're running some charity now?" "A non-profit foundation, yes. The pay must be decent. You seem to be doing so well." They clustered around me with questions designed to solve the mystery of my stability. Had I met someone wealthy? Received an inheritance from my father's side? Won a lawsuit they didn't know about? "Just working hard and living within my means," I replied, watching them deflate. The conversation inevitably shifted back to their problems. Dad mentioned needing a new car but not having the credit. Madison dropped hints about private school tuition. Mom wondered aloud how people afforded retirement. Through it all, not one person asked how I actually was. Not about my dreams, my happiness, my life beyond its financial implications. I was still just a puzzle to solve, a resource to evaluate. Charlotte arrived the next weekend, her red hair now shorter, her laugh still infectious. She met me at my new apartment, whistling at the upgrade from my studio. "This is gorgeous, Haley. Look at you living like an actual adult." We spent Saturday at the foundation where she met Karen and toured our facilities. She watched me review applications, approve emergency funds, call clients with good news. That evening we visited Deborah's house for dinner. "This is Haley's real family," Deborah told Charlotte, serving her famous pot roast. "I just got lucky enough to be included." Charlotte observed our easy rhythm, how we moved around each other's spaces without asking, finished each other's thoughts, shared silence as comfortably as conversation. After dinner, Deborah excused herself to bed early, leaving Charlotte and me with wine in the garden. "I need to tell you something," I said, the secret finally ready to emerge. I told her everything. The lottery, the test, the results. The anonymous gifts to the family that had abandoned me. The foundation built on principles they'd never demonstrated. Charlotte listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to understanding to something deeper. You know what's remarkable? She finally said. You could destroy them with the truth. One family dinner, one revelation, and they'd never recover from the shame. But you choose to help them anyway. It's revenge, I insisted. They struggle while I thrive. They wonder while I know. No, Haley. Revenge would be rubbing their faces in it. This is transcendence. You're operating on a completely different level than they are. She sipped her wine thoughtfully. They're still stuck in transaction. What can they get? What must they give? You've moved beyond that. You give without them knowing, help without recognition. That's not revenge. That's grace. Her words settled into my chest, reorganizing something fundamental. The anger I'd carried for so long felt suddenly lighter, less important. Sunday morning, Charlotte joined Deborah and me in the garden. We planted tomatoes and peppers, discussing the foundation's next project, a scholarship program for single mothers returning to school. Deborah mentioned possibly volunteering as a counselor. The family asks about you sometimes, Deborah said carefully, hands deep in soil. Your mom especially. She knows something's changed but can't figure out what. Let her wonder, Charlotte said firmly. Some people earn truth, others just get proximity to it. As we worked, I thought about the 2 photographs on my dresser. The winning lottery ticket, laminated and framed, next to the picture of Deborah and me at Betty's diner. $7 million versus 2,000. Both had changed my life, but only one had shown me what wealth really meant. I kept the envelope, I told Deborah suddenly. The one you gave me your savings in. It's in my jewelry box. Why? She asked, though her smile suggested she knew. Because that was the moment I understood the difference between relatives and family. Blood makes you related. Choice makes you family. And that day you chose me when no one else did. The sun warmed our backs as we worked. 3 women who'd found each other through loss and truth. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom about planning a summer vacation, wondering if I might contribute since I was doing so well now. I deleted it without responding and went back to planting vegetables with my real family, the fortune they'd never know about protecting us all, the truth they'd never learn keeping me free. If this story of family betrayal and sweet justice had you hooked from start to finish, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Aunt Deborah offered Haley her last $2,000 while the millionaire family members offered nothing but excuses. What was your most satisfying moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more gripping stories of revenge and redemption. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.